My family takes a yearly vacation to a tropical destination every year for at least 2 weeks. Last year was a disaster. We flew down to the beautiful island of Jamaica, but we were greeted with non-stop storms day and night, so we couldn't even leave our hotel. My father was upset after spending nearly $5,000 just to sit and watch a heavy downpour of rain. We had checked the weather app before booking our flights, but unfortunately it was completely wrong, as it said it should have been sunny every day. This year we all put destinations on a piece of paper and put them all in a jar. We each got to pick out 3 papers, one at a time. The paper that got picked the most would be our destination for this trip. We had about 20 options in total, each with the vacation destination we all wanted to visit. My brother happened to pick the Bahamas along with my dad and mom, so we decided it was meant to be, and the Bahamas we will go this summer for 2 weeks. We began buying the basic necessities for our trip, such as sunblock, new sandals and shoes, and swim gear, since the Bahamas has amazing clear water beaches to relax and swim. We took a red-eye flight, which is the night flights. I don't like flying at night because I get jealous of watching those people who fall asleep like babies while I can't get a second of sleep on a plane. We landed quite rough. We usually land very smooth when traveling, but this plane landed quite hard and almost bounced me off my seat as some of the crowd groaned from the landing. It was early morning and we had the entire day to explore. I was quite sleepy, so decided to take a nap in the hotel. Meanwhile, my family went downstairs and ate breakfast. I could hear kids running around the pool area while their mom sat poolside reading books on their phone. It was a beautiful day. I slept a few hours and decided to get up and go find my family, which told me they would be on the sand. The hotel we're staying at is right on the beach, so you exit the gates and you're already standing on the beach sand. I got my bathing suit on while I rubbed sunblock on my shoulders, making sure I don't get severely burned like I have on past trips. I headed down the staircase to meet up with my family, who should have been sitting on the beach. Our hotel security guards had warned us not to go deep into the town, as there had been a recent spread of cartel crime in the area as they were establishing their presence using violence. They usually don't mess with the local citizens or travelers, but some people have gotten caught in the middle of the cartel violence while wandering the city, and some had been transported to the hospital with severe injuries from gunfights. Since our hotel was beachside, we didn't have a reason to go into town, since the hotel also provides us with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The food is amazing. I noticed they had a crew of 4 older ladies in the kitchen preparing all our food. They all look like local ladies preparing typical local food such as rice and beans, fried chicken, plantains, and so many more options. I headed out the back gate to the beach when I could see my family sitting on plastic beach chairs under an umbrella while my brother was wading in the crystal clear waters that looked so welcoming. I smiled and headed over to my family as my father jokingly greeted with the, "Well, good morning," as I had been sleeping the entire morning. A few days went by and vacation was just what I expected. Endless beach days. Nobody in my family was arguing this trip, unlike our last trip, which was nothing but angry family members the entire time due to the bad weather. There must have been hundreds of people lining the beach today, as it was a Saturday midday and everyone was enjoying the sunny weather and warm waters. I could see a helicopter floating above the ocean in the distance, which stood there for a few minutes in one single position. A while later, the helicopter, in what looked to be flying full speed, came towards the shore. I pulled my phone out and began recording as it came rather close to us and the sand was being thrown up in our face from the wind the helicopter blades were producing. I could read the letters on the side of the helicopter. It literally said, "Cartel de Jalisco," on the side of the helicopter. My father looked at us and signaled to head back into the hotel, as we had a cartel helicopter in the area and that usually meant trouble. As we gathered our belongings, the helicopter came in closer and landed on the beach. 3 men, fully armed that looked like trained military, jumped out the helicopter and ran into our hotel. The doors of the hotel were open due to people coming outside to watch the helicopter land on the beach. I heard 2 gunshots come from inside the hotel. As all the people began screaming in fear, there were kids and families in the area, and these cartel guys did not care at all. They murdered one of the security guards that attempted to block their entrance as they handcuffed one of the cooking ladies in the kitchen. I saw the lady walk out in handcuffs, crying, still wearing her cooking apron as the cartel members walked her back to the helicopter. They put her in the aircraft and flew away back towards the ocean. The hotel was placed on lockdown by the local police to investigate, and we were all moved to a different hotel down the street. While watching the local news in the evening, the story came on explaining that our hotel had been invaded by the cartel and they captured one of the local crime bosses hiding in a hotel. Apparently, one of our cooking ladies was the boss of a local drug ring and she had been hiding out as a hotel chef for the past year. My friends had told me to avoid traveling to Egypt as a single woman, but I couldn't resist the opportunity to visit the pyramids in person, at least once in my life. I'm an avid solo traveler, and contrary to what my friends and family warned me about, I booked a flight to Egypt for 1 week to backpack around and visit the Egyptian pyramids. Apparently, single travelers fall into scams on a regular basis, where the fake tour guides will take your money and not take you on a tour, or just outright overcharge you for a simple camel ride or horse ride. I figured everyone was simply scared from hearing stories on social media, as I usually have great experiences while traveling. I landed in Egypt at night. I had my hotel booked already for the first night and thought I would get up at first sunlight to explore the city before heading out on a bus to the pyramids. Early morning was here as I gathered my backpack, took a quick shower, and headed out the hotel. I handed the receptionist my keys and thanked her for the accommodation for the night. She smiled and said to have a wonderful day and that I had to try one of the local street vendors with the yellow flags. I headed out the hotel and signaled a taxi man that was driving slowly. He pulled over as I asked him to take me to the city center. He hopped out the driver's seat and politely opened the back door for me and signaled to get in. I had been walking for hours now. I had explored the main city center and was looking for somewhere to eat my last meal for the day and find a new hotel to spend the night. I was a bit afraid of eating something new as I didn't want to get an upset stomach, so I saw a Subway in the distance and headed over to buy a foot-long sandwich. I finished my sandwich as I walked out and saw a hotel on my hotel app, which was around 1 mile down the road. I decided to walk it and save the taxi fare since it should only take me about 20 minutes to arrive. I walked about a mile and the hotel was not there. It looked like it had gone out of business as I glanced in the front window and saw an empty room that used to be the reception area. It was getting dark already and I began to worry. I always have a fear of being stuck outside while traveling and having to sleep in the grass hidden somewhere or on a bus bench like a homeless person. To my luck, a taxi driver was coming down the street when I signaled him and asked if he knew where there was a hotel. He looked confused and didn't understand what I was asking him, so I used Google Translate and he smiled and said, "Yes, yes." I hopped in the back seat of his taxi as he repeated the word, "Hotel, yes." He seemed a little happy to help a foreign traveler as he put the car into first gear and began driving east in the opposite direction I had just walked. We passed the subway and headed up a side road leading towards the mountain. I became weary as the mountains areas didn't show it had hotels or hostels, but I figured the local taxi driver knew the area better than I did and would shortly arrive at a hotel. Heading up the hill, the taxi driver locked the taxi doors, which I thought nothing of it as maybe he didn't want me falling out or running without paying once we arrive. We veered onto a dirt road when I leaned over and asked the driver, "Excuse me, sir, where's the hotel?" The taxi driver smiled and in perfect English said, "Don't worry, we're almost there." My eyes became wide open. Why did this man pretend to not know English and now he speaks it perfect? I became scared and said, "No worries, sir, I'll get off here," hoping to walk back into town and find somewhere else to stay. At this moment, the driver said, "You're not going anywhere." I reached for the handle of the door and noticed it had been rigged to not open from the inside. There was no handle on either side of the car. A metal cage with the glass in the middle separated me from the driver as I began pounding the glass to stop the taxi and let me out. In a swift hammer punch, the glass cracked down the middle. I could see blood running from my hand as I got cut from banging the glass as it broke. The driver slammed the brakes while looking at the broken glass with an angry expression. He opened his door and I used my foot to break the glass down. I hopped into the driver's seat, through the broken window, and jumped out the passenger door. I took off running in a full sprint down the road, leaving all my belongings in the taxi. I didn't have time to grab my bag and figured my life is far more important and I can find new clothes. I could see the taxi turning around to come after me as I looked back while running. I saw a young boy in the front yard of a house, and panicked in fear, I ran through their gates shouting, "Help! Help!" as the boy ran inside scared from a stranger running into their front yard. At that moment, the father ran outside as I told him, "Help me, sir." The man spoke broken English, so I explained the taxi driver was kidnapping me. I could see the taxi pull up in the front of the house. He glanced through the gate and could see me standing with the homeowner. He stared at me with an evil face as he drove off down the road back towards town. I've never been so scared in my entire life of traveling. I don't know what intentions the taxi driver had, but I will now head into town and speak with the embassy about getting a new passport so I can head back home. I guess I'll never get to see the Egyptian pyramids in my life. At this point, I don't think I want to either. I work the reception area of a hostel in a beach town of Honduras. We have shared rooms with bunk beds and private rooms for travelers who need their own space. It's a beautiful town with surfing, kayaking, and every other outdoor sport you can think of. The nightlife is pretty calm here since we don't get too many foreign travelers in the rainy season. It was in November, and the rainy season was slowly coming to an end. We began to see a flow of new customers booking our rooms while they traveled the country using the bus system. We rent surfboards and kayaks from our hostel. We charge $10 for the surfboard for the entire day, but we only rent to those who are staying in our hostel, since we already have their information. In case someone steals or breaks the board, they can be held responsible. The surf here is very calm, so it's perfect for the beginner surfer who wants to have a shot at the sport without the risk of drowning on large waves. A group of 3 girls traveling from Austria had checked in the morning to our hostel. They booked 3 nights and decided to take up some surf lessons from the local surf camp that sets up on the beach every day. They rented 3 surfboards from our hostel. As they walked out towards the beach, they all laughed and looked extremely happy to be on vacation. A few hours later, they all returned. They were still happy, but I could see they were all exhausted from being out in the sun and surfing all day long. I greeted them and asked how their day was. The smaller girl replied, "It was great, but surfing is too hard for me. So I'll just sit on the beach the next few days while my friends continue surfing." It was now a few days later, and the girls had one more night before heading out in the morning. They asked me if I knew of any place with some nightlife they can go have some beers or food and meet some people. I explained the bar down the road has pool tables and ping pong tables and also serve alcohol after 6 p.m. It was still daylight, so the girls decided to go sit on the beach for a few hours before dark. I warned them to be vigilant if they stay on the beach at dark, as some sketchy guys from out of town usually attempt to rob people if they see they are not locals. We have a gang problem in our country, but it's usually in the big inner cities, but at times they will head out to tourist destinations to prey on unsuspecting travelers. The night grew darker, and I was about to close the reception area. It was already 8 p.m. and had been dark for 2 hours by now. I remember the girls had left to the beach in their bikinis and never came back to change to visit the bar I told them about. At this moment, the smaller girl I had spoken to early runs into the hostel gasping for air. I asked her, "Is everything okay?" With tears running down her eyes, she said her friends need help. A group of men snuck up on them while sitting on the beach and took them away in the back of a pickup truck. I instantly became angry and told her, "I told you to avoid the beach at night," as I grabbed the phone to call 911. The police came and took a report as they sent several officers a radio call to look for the 4-door white pickup truck heading out of the beach area. There is only one main road, so I was hoping they would block the exit and find the 2 girls before something bad happens to them. A few hours go by as more and more police arrive, and still no signs of the 2 girls or updates. They never found the white pickup truck either. The night passed, and as I stayed overtime working the reception area due to a large amount of police presence in our hostel, the local news team had arrived and began asking people standing around if they had witnessed anything or knew what was happening. In a plea for help, the shorter girl went to the cameraman and gave the entire story in hopes of locating her 2 friends. The story hit the nighttime news station and went viral. 2 foreign girls had been abducted on the beach by local gang syndicates, and nobody knew where they had gone. It's been a week now since this entire nightmare took place, and the girls are still missing. I don't know if they are still alive, but I've been in a state of shock, wondering how everything could go wrong so fast. I continue updating all the news stories regarding this issue in hopes the 2 girls will be rescued alive.